the university research that's been done has shown this area here, which is where it's going to be mostly, because we go down and out. So we go into what I like to call dipped headlights. So the majority of the strain is on the inside and upper area of the breast. That tissue has been recorded as being 75% stretched. Up to that. Now, obviously, there's variations within that, but that's irreparable skin damage. So that's basically going to mean that that skin gets stretched out. The collagen is never going to tighten back up again. And that means that we are then even more reliant on an external support, which is what the bra is.
Welcome to Exercise for Osteoporosis in Conversation with. My name is Francine Zimbalist and I am the founder, innovator and educator at Exercise for Osteoporosis. Today is Exercise for Osteoporosis in Conversation with Siobhan O'Donovan, physiotherapist with a special interest in breast health and posture. Siobhan is an Irish musculoskeletal chartered physiotherapist who these days likes nothing more than to talk about breast weight and how it can affect women's well-being. For Siobhan, prevention of injury has always been fundamental to her, as well as her desire to educate. Under the umbrella of her company Posture Matters, she runs posture rehabilitation classes and offers one-to-one physiotherapy. She has also created Posture Fitting, a physiotherapy service involving bra fitting that literally and figuratively supports women. And in a bid to spread the word, she runs workshops called Gals for Gravity. Highlights in her career journey thus far include being a PE teacher, gaining her master's degree in orthopedic medicine, qualifying as a certified athletic trainer, that's a US specialism in sports and activity, becoming a certified strength and conditioning specialist, being clinical director of a physio and performance center, which she co-founded, guest lecturing, supervising university students on clinical placements, being on the founding executive committee of a new graduate level professional body, and not forgetting playing international rugby. So welcome, Siobhan. You must be absolutely exhausted. I hope you're well. Let's just get stuck in right away. Can you talk me through the story behind Posture Matters, please? And then how was it born, and what is posture fitting?
Okay, well, thank you first, Francine, for having me on. I got a bit tired listening to that list. It has gone on over 30 years though, so I'll caveat that. It's taken me quite a while. I guess, oh gosh, where do I start? Posture fitting as a concept is something that basically evolved because of an experience that I had a few years ago in London in a lingerie store. Basically, I was fitted for the first time in my life. Prior to that, I had been working, I'd been working back here in Cork in Ireland, where I'm originally from, having been in the States and having been in the UK for a number of years. And I had kind of been going more and more into the postural side of things because, as you said, my focus has always been prevention. And I guess I was just seeing a lot of patients that I felt were with completely unintentionally and completely out of, a blissful state of ignorance, I would say, were actually hurting themselves with things that they were doing, that they didn't necessarily realize that. But I'm very much into trying to find the source of a problem. So when I would explain to somebody about the likes of, a position that they might be maintaining for a while and how that could be straining an area that, maybe needed a little bit of support there, then, the whole education side of it really has come full circle for me, in that I am very much an educator alongside a therapist. And so I was doing more and more postural work with people anyway, and then had my epiphany, and it literally was an epiphany in this lingerie store, where I walked out an inch taller. And now I walked out thinking, oh my word, I had no idea that these things could create the negative that I then realized that they had been creating. So I realized how hard I'd been trying to work to hold up my trunk, and that the weight of my breasts was adding to that, and I just was not aware of that at all. So I kind of thought, well, if it's having this much of an effect on me, then it's going to have an even better effect on patients. So I just then started to look at creating it, in making it into something that I could do with patients, and that's where posture fitting started.
Wonderful. Okay. So I know that your service is heavily backed on by research and the impact of breast weight on posture. When you crossed my path, actually, hearing you talk about the research really helped me trust and understand the need for your service. Can you talk me through some of the key highlights that viewers should know about the research that's out there?
I think probably the most important thing is the fact that our breasts weigh much more than we realize. And when I have this conversation with people about what I do, a lot of women will say, oh, that's nothing for me because I've got nothing, or I'm only an A cup, or they'll kind of dismiss it as being not relevant for them. And what we know through the research and what I am seeing anecdotally with people is that any of us who have breasts have a weight that is coming forward and bringing us forward, unless we do something to work against gravity and prevent that from happening. And the greater the breast weight, the greater the tendency into this flexed position is, and the harder therefore it is to maintain a position where gravity isn't winning. And so a lot of the research is showing now the impact of that breast weight on women, from a point of view of not just the physical impact in terms of, we know how the breasts move. We know they move in a 3D shape, so it's a figure of 8 as opposed to just up and down, which is what everybody thinks. So we go up and down, we go side to side, and we go in and out. And
So
we know.
just to intervene on that. So there's something that happened the other day. That's just ringing true. I've gone to purchase a well-known phone brand, and I've got a new slow-mo setting. So I thought I'd test it out, and I did this thing where I shook everything in front of the camera, and I was blown away by what I saw. I honestly, because I'm a very large cup size anyway, and I've fortunate enough to have had a very good fitting very early on in my young adult life. But I was like you say, seeing all this directional stuff going on that I didn't expect, and I was like, and I was in my bra, so I was like out of control. It was insane. Carry on. I just thought I'd interject with that little finding myself.
And you know what? But that's great. And what I love about what I'm doing now is being able to have that moment that the patient goes, oh my God, look, I didn't know this was going to happen, or yeah. Absolutely. So like, that's great that you've seen that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, we know that we can support the breasts with an optimally fitting bra. We know that breast pain can be decreased with an optimally fitting bra, and we know that excessive movement can be decreased with an optimally fitting bra. So what the research is telling us is that we have, I suppose, an indication of some of the issues, which can be physical, they can be psychological, in that, if somebody is very kind of drawn forward a lot, then from a physical perspective, that can compress your lungs and compress your throat muscles, and we have a diaphragm here that can be affected by that, and over time that can create an issue. But also from a psychological perspective, we tend to be, if we're feeling down, we'll tend to kind of crawl into ourselves a little bit, and so your demeanor can be reflected in your posture. So if you're feeling vulnerable and not very confident, then you'll tend to kind of draw a little bit more into yourself and make yourself smaller. Whereas if you're that little bit more confident, you'll see that in the way somebody is walking and talking. And here's an interesting.
I was going to ask you this today about posture and mood, and whether your work centers just on the physical side, but it sounds like you're very much so focused on the emotional and the mental side of things.
I think, I suppose to some extent, where I started with this was very much on about the way how people feel and the effect that their breast weight was going to have on how they felt. And very quickly I realized that feeling is not just physical, that it is how you feel emotionally, it is how you feel in terms of you know, the way something makes you feel, whether it makes you feel good or whether it doesn't make you feel good. And breast weight and the support that you have for that can be very much impacted by that. And here's a really interesting aside. I remember years ago when I first started working on postural stuff, speaking to somebody who mentioned that crime prevention research has shown that criminals will go for and will target people who look vulnerable. So if there's somebody walking down, you know, a dimly lit street and they're walking very hunched over and they've got their head down and they're looking at the ground, that person is going to be targeted, as opposed to somebody who's walking tall and you know, clearly is confident in themselves. Their body space is much more, stay away from me, I'm good here. And that's a crime prevention truth. So just simply by the way we hold ourselves, we can, you know, prevent ourselves from being victims of crime. I know that's a very specific and hopefully not something that would ever happen to anybody, but just a real reflection of things. And you see it on TV. You can see people who look confident, you can see people who don't look confident. And if you are needing to choose between two people to you know, kind of do a job for you, you're always going to go for the person who carries themselves better.
I imagine, and I don't know because this isn't something I study widely, but because most of the people I work with are, you know, in later life or in transition, and there are vulnerabilities attached to that in itself. Exactly. So walking around and going about your day business and the intimidations that this new world and is you know, supposing on us, and we therefore, and then impacted as an add-on with the breast weight is just a plus and a plus, but you sort of look more vulnerable. So these are really fascinating points. Now, this may be an obvious one for some people to fathom, but how does it change with exercise and movement? I'm assuming breast weight has even more of an impact with exercise.
Yeah, and again, you know, to come back to my earlier point, any size breast will move. So even if we're walking, there's going to be a certain amount of movement. And again, we have research that shows how many centimeters it moves by. And when we run, then that amount of impact, or sorry, that amount of movement is increased. So you can actually have breast weight moving the length of a box of tissues in just purely going from walking to running. So in walking situation, it's been recorded that breast can move up to kind of 2 to 4 centimeters walking, and in running it has been recorded up to 18 centimeters, and in some sports up to 21. So 21 centimeters, that's nearly, you know, that's a long way. And so you're talking about yes, absolutely, as you've just said, the heavier somebody is, the more that breast weight is going to potentially move. But equally, we will move even if we're smaller or lighter, as a lot of women think they are. And equally then, what I've also found, just to digress a little bit with this, is that the women who think they are an A cup, who think they have nothing, they're very often not an A cup. In fact, I have yet, other than a teenager who is budding and, you know, in going through puberty, I haven't met an adult who is an A cup.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking about. I was talking today in one of my classes to my participants that while we do a squat, for example, that's an activity of daily living that we go through. Every single warm up involves that, so that we can learn and relearn and relearn and relearn the correct hinges to be using. And I mentioned to many people that if you are well endowed in your chest area and your belly area, you've got more stability work to be doing. So, you know, in a way, it's sort of thinking, you know, should there be a bra for the belly? And I guess there are back supports out there. But that's, I guess, why there's a recommendation out there that keeping yourself at optimal weight is a really sensible option, because all of that frontal weight is just going to impact, isn't it, on on everything to do with your spine.
Absolutely, and I am smiling from ear to ear because I've said this for so many years that I'm going to design a belly bra. That's exactly the words. I've even had the idea for the name and everything. So
Oh,
we
wow.
must talk about
I
this
love it.
afterwards.
Belly bra.
Yeah,
Great.
belly bra.
Okay.
Yeah,
Super.
because I mean, yeah, absolutely. You're going to have, unless something is supported, it's going to get pulled forward.
Yeah.
And absolutely, the whole obesity crisis, I think, is something that certainly is creating an element of that whole situation being made worse. I have to say, I get incredibly frustrated when there is a kind of a cause effect relationship that becomes too simple with that, you know. So if a patient comes in and has low back pain and they've been told by their GP, oh, lose your weight and your back pain will go, I get really frustrated by that because it's not that simple. It's never that simple.
Sure.
If that was the case, people who weren't overweight wouldn't have back pain.
Absolutely.
So I you know, and I know you're not saying that at all, but there absolutely definitely is an element of, if you're being pulled forward, then your spine is going to react to that, and that's what happens with the breasts. So absolutely, yes, for sure, we definitely need to keep trying to encourage people to move more. And this is one of the reasons why the breast weight issue is a problem, because aside from the physical aspects that it can create, the negative physical aspects, aside from the negative psychological aspects, it also creates negative social aspects, in that a woman who feels that she's got excessive breast weight doesn't want to exercise, doesn't want to be seen exercising, and therefore will probably not exercise, which then creates this catch-22 of somebody who may then put on more weight. They'll put on breast weight, they'll put on, you know, body fat, and then they become more immobile. And then the more immobile they are, the less they move, and the less they move. And then you're talking about burdens on the health service, and quite aside from the quality of life of that person. All of these things we can intervene in.
Sure. No, I hear you. And it's all about getting the right fitting, isn't it? It's all about getting the right fitting, and that will just catapult into a positive domino effect, which is what you're doing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So can you tell me the difference between, on the note of exercise, can you tell me the difference between the design of a regular day bra and a sports bra, and why are they designed differently?
Yeah, so I've got a couple here. Here's one I made earlier. Well, I didn't make it actually, but so basically, I suppose the primary difference is in the structure and in the material. So this would be a day bra.
Oh my God, I'm not kidding, but that's the bra I'm wearing right now. Yes, no, the other one, the other one.
This one.
I'm wearing, well, unless it's an amazing copy. Anyway, in black. I won't ask you because I don't want to talk about brands at the moment. That's something people can contact you with and query. But that maybe I'll ask you after. But I'm literally looking at that, going, I'm winning. Anyway, carry on.
I'll have you take your top off. I always take my top off in these things.
I mean, honestly, there couldn't be. I literally, those are my day bras. Anyway, carry on.
Excellent. Good. So basically with this is quite a light material. It is padded, but it's a very light material. And what I very much like, and I have selected these bras in particular for this option, is to be able to do this racer back thing.
Oh, hang on, that might not be the one I've got.
Okay.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. I still think I'm winning. I think I'm doing okay. Carry on.
Don't you worry. So anyway, you get to do this racer back, which is what we see. I'll take it off the hanger. That will make it a little bit more realistic, won't it?
Okay.
So, or I've got it on me. I could just take my top off, but
no. Let's see it on here.
Not yet.
It. Make sure you raise it up for me, Siobhan.
So basically, I'll tie it. Sorry. Tie it, and what you get when you do this racer back is a couple of things where it gives you a little bit more support.
Okay.
There we go. So this is the way it's going to then be worn on the person. Okay.
That's a day bra.
That's a day bra. They're going to have the straps coming across here, but that racer back just gives a little bit more support in terms of actual support, but also it gives feedback, and we can talk about that a little bit later. So this is a day wired bra, which is quite light. The sports bra, what they've done with the sports bra, and this one in particular, I've got all the research about all the testing and so on that they did. What you've got is a few components, which is just that it's a stronger structure in general, because we're expecting for this to be moving. So we know that we need this to control the weight that little bit, great, have greater control over the weight. So the straps tend to be a little bit wider, and the padding in the cup will be a little bit thicker because that helps to absorb shock. The wire in this compared to in this is bigger, but it's padded so that it's not hurting the person. And very often also the band will be wider. So in this one, for example, there are 3 hook and eyes in this,
Sure.
whereas, for example, in this one, there are just 2.
Okay.
Well,
so I'm going to shoot out an immediate question that some people are going at. That's never going to happen to me. Underwire, no thanks. What's your response?
My response is that I would posit. I always wanted to say that. I would posit that the reason why you don't like underwired is because you've never been in an optimally fitting underwired bra. So the wire should be something you are not aware of. So I'm wearing a wired bra right now, and I am not aware at all of the wire because I am fitted in such a way that the wire is sitting on my ribs and not poking into breast tissue. And when you see these, cartoons where it's all about women being desperate to take the bra off at 6 o'clock, or being desperate to take it off on a Friday. And now, because everybody's been working from home, there's been a huge amount of people not wearing a bra at all. And there is research showing that.
I'm definitely guilty of, I don't know any woman that isn't. Because I don't, it's interesting you say that. I don't necessarily take it off because it's uncomfortable. I take it off just because I think there are other things linked to being free. But hearing what you're saying is that actually I'm doing myself a disservice by taking the bra off. Yeah. And it might be not something that I notice acutely. It will be a chronic thing that I notice. That's what I'm hearing. Correct me if I notice later down the line.
Absolutely. So we know that the support structures are our skin and these tiny little fibrous things within the breast itself, which, to be honest, we could almost dismiss because they don't have a structural role as such. They've been mooted as having that, but we have no data to show any mechanical properties whatsoever. So we don't have anything as an internal support structure really, other than the skin, and the skin will stretch. And as we get older, and we lose estrogen, particularly around the time of menopause, or also during breastfeeding, during pregnancy, with all those changes, then the skin is under a lot of pressure. And the heavier the breast is, the more weight is pulling down on the skin. So we know the skin strain occurs up, the skin can tolerate up to 30% of load, if you like. And then from 60% on, there's irreparable damage done. And the university research that's been done has shown this area here, which is where it's going to be mostly because we go down and out. So we go into what I like to call dipped headlights. So the majority of the strain is on the inside and upper area of the breast. That tissue has been recorded as being 75% stretched up to that. Now, obviously, there's variations within that, but that's irreparable skin damage. So that's basically going to mean that skin gets stretched out. The collagen is never going to tighten back up again. And that means that we are then even more reliant on an external support, which is what the bra is.
And I guess people's collagen levels do change, especially women, over time. Yeah. Just, I don't know if you want to explain to maybe the viewers a little bit about what that means and what does that mean?
Yeah, so because we have hormonal changes which can occur during pregnancy, during breastfeeding, and during the menopause, the levels of estrogen in our body will change, and the levels of estrogen very much affect skin flexibility and the mobility of the skin tissue. And so what happens is, over time, without making it all sound doomy and gloomy, then the skin can get drier, and as it gets drier, you just don't have that kind of plump kind of pulling back. That's why the fine lines in our faces become deeper wrinkles as we get older. So which I think that's fine. I think that's a sign of maturity and a sign that you've lived a bit of your life, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But from a breast perspective, it just means that the skin is less able to deal with that load. And to be honest, by the time most of us get to menopause, we're going to have had so much gravitational load at that point in time that the damage is already done, even before we can become less able to deal with it.
So here's what I wanted to ask you. If you clock on to what your lessons you're trying to educate people about early enough, almost as soon as the teenage girl needs to wear the bra, can we counteract that long-term effect if we touch on it earlier? I mean, something I was going to ask you a little bit later, but it seems fitting to talk
No
about
pun
that now.
intended.
Is this interview is likely to primarily fall upon the ears and eyes of the maturer woman, but if they didn't get the message, then it's unlikely that their daughters are getting the message. So if we want to gain the pearls of wisdom of these preventative strategies, when do you think women should be educated about this, and who should be doing the educating?
I would have all teenage girls learning this. I mean, there are a lot of things that I have come across in my life that I have gone, why did nobody tell me this? Why am I finding this out now? Why do we find things out when we're having a problem that we need to solve, as opposed to not reaching the point of that problem at all? So for me, absolutely, as soon as teenagers start to have breasts, they need to be aware of how to look after them. And so for me, it would be schools, and whether that is physios going into schools and giving that information in the context of posture, in the context of exercise, in the context of movement, or whether that's via the likes of, there's an initiative that a couple of the universities in the UK have come together and created called Treasure Your Chest, which is an educational resource for teenagers, basically. So it can be given by coaches, it can be given by teachers. I suppose it's great. It's a great initiative. I guess what it doesn't do then is it doesn't give the audience the expertise of somebody who might need to be able to answer questions that aren't within that lesson plan.
I mean,
but it's a great starting point.
What I'm hearing, Siobhan, is it sounds like, not to give you business ideas, but much like a very famous chef in our country, in the UK, who's gone into schools and to talk about nutrition, perhaps, fit meeting up with perhaps some inspirational sportswomen to go into schools and do these educational seminars with women, to be absolutely inspiring and say, look what I've done, and look at how I've done it. It sounds like this has got legs. It's not that it never had legs, it's just that it needs to have legs because it's a problem, and it's a chronic problem, and I think you'd quite like to turn it around. It sounds like this is you found your your kind of goal in life, your sole purpose. Let me ask you this. Why do you think many women are wearing ill-fitted bras? Are there varying approaches to bra fitting today?
So there's basically two cohorts, if you like, that you can divide women into. You can divide women into people who have been measured or fitted, and people who've never been. So if you look at the people who've never been, and I ask women this all the time, I will ask people, how do you select your bra? If you've never been measured or fitted, which is not a negative question, just finding out, if nobody's ever kind of talked you through a process, how do you select it? How did I select my bra? I ended up being a 36B or a 34C, and I wasn't sure why I was, but I guess that's just what covered me. So I would put something on and it would look reasonably okay, and it covered enough of me, and that was it. That's how I ended up selecting mine. But I had no idea what I was doing, none whatsoever. All I was doing literally was covering myself because that's what I thought a bra was supposed to do. I had no idea it needed to do anything else. Then you've got people who have been measured or fitted, and I can subdivide those again into another two groups, because there are women who have been optimally fitted, who have been, had a great experience, and who are now wearing their correct fit. And those women are the lucky ones. Unfortunately, there are a lot more women who have been to a store of some sort that offers a fitting experience, but the technique that's used in some of, and particularly the larger department stores that obviously I won't be naming, but a lot of them use a technique that began in the 40s. And that technique is outdated. And we know it's outdated and we know it's inaccurate. But unfortunately, it's still being used. So one of my concerns is that if a woman goes to somebody else to be fitted, how do they know that that fitting technique is correct? So for me, I want every woman to know how to fit themselves. I don't want you to have to go into a shop and have to have a shop assistant tell you whether you're in the right fit or not. You should know that. I should know that. We should all know that. And I think it's just a travesty that we haven't learned it previously. But yeah, like you say, I'm on a mission.
Why has it changed it? What happened in the 40s? Is there a big difference between what's happened then to now?
So there's two. So the 40s was kind of when the bra first started to be really commercially made. It was actually designed originally back in the earlier 1900s, but it really kind of came out onto the market more in the 40s, 30s and 40s. And at the time, elastic was not part of the material. So people needed to probably have something that, because you didn't have the elastic which would allow your rib cage to expand and then compress again. So you were put in material that was wider to accommodate the need of your rib cage to widen. That's one theory as to why that happened. The second theory is that the hourglass figure, the in and out, was considered to be the ideal at the time. And so what would happen is somebody would perhaps measure a particular amount, be a little bit smaller at their waist and then be bigger at their hips. And what they were then told was that they were the same size at their hips as at their breasts, so that they felt they had an hourglass. So this, I'm not so sure whether that's accurate or whether that's just a social, myth.
Well, I mean, I mean, some of the stuff you're talking about is history. Some of it sounds like a cultural history. Have you sort of picked up books that are? I don't know. How do you find that information out?
Gosh, how did I find? I suppose just trying to research how the bra started and the history of the bra.
Yeah.
But I suppose, I mean, you've raised a really interesting point there. From a cultural perspective, there probably are. I mean, I suppose I've looked at it from a very Western kind of perspective, and there may well be differences in the way that underwear is perceived in different cultures as well. So that would be a really interesting road to go down in terms of looking at that. But I know kind of the way it all started was back in the 1800s. Women were just wore very, very tight clothing to try and keep their breasts from moving and interfering in their daily activities. And from that came the corset, and from the corset then came the bra. And one of the reasons for that was that the steel that was used for making corsets was needed during the war effort. So basically women were told, you're not having corsets because we need the steel. This is in the States. So that was one of the reasons why the bra actually started to become more commercially available, because they basically needed to cut down the corset. But yes, the fitting thing is something that I very much am on a kind of I'm very zealous about trying to ensure that people are fitted optimally, because I think if somebody has gone to the bother of saying, oh yes, I'm going to go and have a bra fit done, it breaks my heart that then they have it done and they come out being given a size. And for a start, size doesn't matter, fit matters. The fact that they've been given a size and they think that's their size, and it's very often not, and B, they'll wear it for all their lives because they're like, oh well, I was fitted when I was 22, and here I am at 47 still wearing the same bra, despite the fact that I've had 2 children and I'm now perimenopausal, and yeah, my breasts have got a bit bigger.
Yeah, so this is a question a set of questions anyway I was going to ask you later, but it seems fitting now because it's come up. So it's quite a long-winded question because I've got some posits in the middle of it, so bear with me. So what I was going to ask you is whether people should be wary of labelling themselves a size. You've already kind of answered that. It seems that bras tend to differ depending on the brand and the model.
Mhm.
And this may be linked to the percentage of elastic, I'm assuming, any individual bra or the shape, of an individual bra. I'm assuming we don't just vary in size, but shape too.
Yes.
And what is your advice to someone who has come for a fitting but wants to go lingerie shopping or do online shopping beyond their fitting? And then what are the key things that they should be looking for? Why would they try a cup size up or a circumference size down? And should people be bra fitting more often?
Um, if I work backwards from that, should people be bra fitting more often? The what we recommend, what I would recommend based on the research and based on what I'm seeing, is that the absolutely essential time to be having a fit is if you've had a change in your life stage.
Okay.
So if you have either been pregnant or breastfeeding or gone through menopause or premenopause, we have changes that occur to our breasts as a result of those hormonal changes, which we cannot control. We have no control over those. But what it does do is it changes our breast volume. And again, if a woman is educated into wearing the optimal fit, she may, and this happened to me in the last couple of years, I noticed that the bra that I was wearing seemed a little bit like it was starting to poke in. And I then realized, gosh, I'm getting a little bit bigger in terms of my breast volume. And so I've now changed. I was a 30, my rib cage has gotten bigger, I'm now a 32, and my cup size has changed because I've gone up to a 32, but also because my breast volume has increased. So again, if you know what you're looking for in terms of the criteria, you can deal with those life stage changes. And then we have physical changes as well, which can occur as a result of weight loss, as a result of weight gain, as a result of injury, illness. So your breast volume can change at various times over your life. But again, as long as you know that, then you can do something about that because you know what to look for. Um, I've forgotten the earlier bit
Oh
of the
no, just
question.
like, but yeah, I did ask what should they be looking for, because it might be that I don't know, take Selfridges for example in London. They've got so many different brands, and I what am I going to do? Am I going to take the same size off of the shelf of all of them? I mean, I know I don't. I always take a variety, but generally speaking, they're always a slight. They're only one or two, one circumference down or up, or one cup size up or down. But
Yeah.
play with them. It's a kind of a combination play. But the problem is it's you do end up taking, if you're doing things correctly, you should end up taking practically the whole shop into the changing room, because you've just got so many different sizes in so many different styles. But I mean, so what I was saying is, what should people look for? You did hint to dipped headlights earlier, and I suppose this is a good time to explain what you meant by that. I think I know what you mean.
So can I, remind me of the tips headlights and I'll come
Yeah.
back into that, but can I just commend you first? Because for a starting point, you are one of the very few women who even mentions trying a brown. Because most women will just go pick one off the shelf and take it home
Or
because that's their
online. Or
size, or
online.
online. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So well done you for doing that. And you're doing exactly what I do remember the way you asked the question was, if somebody has been fitted, how do then they go on to buy other bras afterwards? Doing exactly what you've just said, which is acknowledging that brands have a variety of elastic. Within the brands, they have a variety of elastic. So this is the same brand, and very often people are a band size up in this because the elastic is much tighter, and sometimes they're not because they
Well,
can deal with that.
sorry, just to interject, I thought the point of the elastic being tighter was to create that tighter, with the sports bra, was to create a tighter feel. So should you be going, because I've been in sports bras before, and I don't know if this has been correct, in my kickboxing days. I used to kickbox in my 20s, and we know there's lots of bouncing around doing that. And I was just locked in. I mean, I'm big, and so I felt like that was a good thing, because there was so much bouncing around. It wasn't particularly comfortable on the ribs though, so I wonder whether I did myself a disservice. And I guess I mean I did get fitted for that one, but maybe incorrectly. I'm not sure.
It needs to be snug. It needs to be firm. and it needs to be firm enough that it doesn't move when you are moving, because if the bra moves while you're moving, then that's when a lot of women end up with getting rashes and things underneath their breasts because the bra is moving. So that in itself isn't a good thing. If it's too tight, and if you, as again many women do, if you think, oh well, I just need to stop them from moving, so I'm just going to ram them into something that is actually too tight, what that does is it can inhibit your rib cage expanding when you need it to. So it can actually impact your performance. So you might not be able to give as good of yourself in your activity, in your sport. And if there is a wire, if you are wearing a wired bra, so I think what I'm seeing is that a lot of people will ram themselves into a non-wired sports bra on the basis of, well, if I put something really tight on, they're going to get pushed together and they're not going to move. So it's kind of like this is happening. So therefore they're not moving, and you get this uni boob kind of a thing happening as a result of being in something that's too tight. If it's too tight in the band but non-wired, then what you're probably going to be is uncomfortable. But if it's too tight in the band and wired, then potentially you've got wire poking into breast tissue here. You've got wire poking into breast tissue here. I don't know whether you can see me doing that. So here and here, and that's going to be pressing onto sensitive tissue, and that's not particularly good for your breasts. And that again then is coming back full circle to the, oh God, this is so uncomfortable. I don't like wired bras. Please don't put me in a wired bra. I need to take it off last thing, as soon as I can. So we end up, again, just simply by not being in the right fit, you're going to create that negative, whether it's physically on your breast or whether it is the way it feels that it's uncomfortable.
And I'm assuming you try your, we'll come to dip headlights, but I'm assuming you try your sports bra on, do some sport in the shop, jump, run. Don't just go and then leave. You need to feel what it feels like and possibly go through the actions of your physical activity that you usually do.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that for many people that attend my classes, they don't do other sports and activities, so they'll just need to do an array of things like reaching and whatnot. But really thinking about the activity they do, and just looking at yourself in the mirror and watching for all that figure of 8 and it being reduced is what you're after. Yeah.
And you're absolutely right with that as well, because the other thing is there are bras on the market that are there are bras out there that are marketed as being low support or low impact for low impact activities, and then medium support, and then high support. And again, looking at the research, there was a study done in 2020, and they tested 95 different sports bras. 95 different sports bras. I mean, I didn't know there were 95 even available. So if you've got 95 that are available for testing, then potentially somebody is going to go either online or into a shop, pick something that maybe, because they're going to be running, they're thinking, yes, I'm going to go for, a high support. And then they put this high support on, and maybe, even if it is in their optimal fit, it might not actually be what it purports to be. And again, the research did show that I think it was 69% were providing the level of support that they've marketed themselves at, which is great. But that means 31% weren't. That means people are still picking up 31% of bras that are potentially not giving them the support that they think. So you're right. You should do a little bit of, make it work. But the key thing is to try it on. Absolute key thing is to try it on. Once you know the criteria for your optimal fit, you go into, and I want a woman to be able to go into any place in the world, be anywhere in the world, and go and get get that bra and try it on.
So super quick, dipped headlights is?
Dipped headlights is if you take your bra off, your breasts are going to go east, southeast, and southwest. And the easiest way to explain that to a patient or to a woman is to show her that that's basically like having dipped headlights. And then when she is in her optimal fit, she's at full beam. So we're up and forward.
Well, that's a very easy thing for people to take note. So I'm getting the picture here, but I just want to double check because I want to talk a little bit more about your service and your business. I want to understand what the difference is between coming to a physio like yourself for a posture fitting and going to a reputable lingerie shop, because you've spoken about your experience in a reputable lingerie shop bra fitting. But what are the added bonuses of using your service?
So the posture fitting is very much about posture. And the idea is that we help somebody, we look at somebody's posture, we will give them posture prompts if needed to help them to be in their best posture. And we know that there's no perfect posture. We're not trying to get people to be ramrod military straight or anything like that, but we're just trying to help people to come out of a negative position. So if they are tending to be like this a lot and their head is going forward, we know how much the weight of your head can impact on muscles in your neck that are not designed to be holding the weight of your head. So if we can bring it back, then that's going to take that load off. We won't be so tight here. We'll be working the muscles we should. So we're aiming to get somebody into their best posture to minimize their chances of overload. And in doing that, the bra helps them in that quest. So the idea is that the bra is an external support to helping the person to be in their optimal posture. And that's the fundamental difference between posture fitting and bra fitting. Because if you go into a lingerie store and you do get your optimal fit, there won't be that necessarily that awareness of posture in the depth that we go into it in.
Right. Great. Sounds super. Tell me, so the extended and tall spine is threaded through pretty much through all of the work that I do in my classes with exercise for osteoporosis and people with osteopenia. Have you ever had patients that come to you with a minor or significant kyphosis? Kyphosis, for those of you watching that don't know, it's kind of an increased curvature of the spine, very rounded upper back spine. Have you ever had someone come to you for your service and experience a radical adjustment from your bra and postural tuition?
I think what I've had, rather than it be so much of a black and white thing, I think what I see is I see a visible difference in patients that I see regularly. So people who come to my posture rehab sessions, they'd be the people that I would see most often and be able to, I guess, follow. What I see is just a better ability to be able to hold an extended position, or to be able to hold it for longer without then giving in to this gravitational pull. I have had ladies who have come to me who have had structural kyphosis, which is quite solid and quite stuck. And in that situation, you know this yourself, you're not going to be able to suddenly take somebody from a situation where they've had structural changes to the bony structures, to the ligamentous structures, to the muscular surrounds, to the fascia. That's not going to suddenly change by you going, I'm going to straighten up, because they're too stiff or too tight. But what this is a step in the journey to hopefully helping them to get a little bit closer to that.
And also just reducing it, stopping it getting worse.
Absolutely.
Right? Because as soon as you can do that, and that's why we need to talk to the teenagers, is so that we don't even get there. And it's amazing hearing you talk about the posture and mood, because one of my best friends has this, and she's got such a fantastic shape and height, but because of her height she's developing this kyphosis, and I can see it, and she knows it as well. She's fully aware of it, and I did tell her to watch your one of the interviews that I watched you do in the past, and she was like, yeah, my god, that's amazing, that's me. And I was like, yeah, do something. Listen, I just wanted to quickly do this question before I get on to a little bit more about your service, just some quick fire questions about that, because we're going to wrap up in a mo. But when is a bra ready for the bin? Because for me, people fall in love with their bras, right? Not just because of the feeling, but sometimes, a feeling about maybe it's not just about a physical feeling, but it's about an emotional or experiential feeling, or whatever, or what it looks like, the beauty of it, because we know lingerie is used for different things. So assuming if a bra has an adjustable circumference with the metal hooks, an older bra still has some life in it, right? Because that's what I'm assuming. We're just sort of like, yeah, this is still old, but hey, if I just put it on the absolute maximum circumference, it's still got life in it. Or is this a really bad kind of negative scripting that I'm
No. Again, you're right in the sense that when you fit yourself in a bra first, when you buy a bra first, ideally you should be putting it in the loosest hook. And the reason for that is you're putting it into the loosest hook because over the course of time, can't really see it in that color, can you? Over the course of time, the elastic will degrade,
yeah.
and it will degrade for two reasons. One is the oils in our skin, and so this is the reason why we shouldn't wear the same bra 2 days in a row.
Oh, really? Okay.
The oils in our skin will
How often
degrade
should
it.
we wash a bra?
That's more of an individual choice.
Okay.
But basically what you shouldn't do is wear the same one 2 days consecutively, because overnight the elastic, when you take it off, the elastic is trying to kind of recoil, and then if you put it on again, it's getting stretched again, so then it doesn't get that recoil. So it needs a bit longer than the overnight.
And 24 hours is that magical length of time.
Well, I'm not sure it's the magical length of time, but we know we shouldn't do the 2 in a row because that's the negative.
I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting that. As I'd done a little bit of research before this interview. That is a brand new bit of information.
Yeah. And I do say to people, you don't need to wash it every time you take it off, because it might not be appropriate. You might not have worn it very long or whatever. You can wash it when you want to wash it, but take it off, hang it on a door handle or on a tie rack or something like that, and just give the elastic the opportunity to recoil.
In a drawer is not as good an idea as on a hanger?
You know what? I have no research to back that up. Just in my head, I kind of think if it's hanging on a hanger, it's got that ability. I have nothing. I have no reason to say that. But,
and just because these are things coming up now as questions. Washing machine versus hand washing. This always, look, we all know we do it. The label says hand wash. We put it in the machine. What happens? What am I doing that's causing problems with my bra?
So firstly, you're running a massive risk of needing a new washing machine.
Right. Okay.
Because if it's a wired bra and the wire comes out while it's in the washing machine and gets stuck in your washing machine, that's a new washing machine. Well, it's a new drum anyway. So it's a very expensive mistake. A lot of women will put their bras into, kind of laundry bags and think that's okay. The wire can still come out through those. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is fascinating because I've been to a factory warehouse and I have seen the machines that they use that shows how much material is degraded by the mechanics of the washing machine. So it'll wear out the elastic much faster. It'll wear out the fabrics much faster if you put it in a washing machine, because it just gets all that tumbling around and all that.
Yeah.
It's rough. It is rough. So that's why the manufacturers would generally recommend that you hand wash them. They will last longer if you hand wash them. If they cost more money, you're going to look after them better. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. You get something that doesn't cost very much, you're probably not going to have a great deal of respect for looking after it, and I get that, but if you go to the bother of getting a good quality bra, then it's an investment and you should look after it.
Okay, so, I'm giving myself a slap on the wrist right now. It's all good. I'll I bet it's all good, because this is the thing, along with my viewers, I'm putting my hand up and saying, and I think this is it, it's sort of going, let's all just be a bit accountable, and because it's a time thing for many of us, and it's just I think it's just threading it into your day to say today's bra washing day. Maybe.
And, as with a lot of things these days, there are products on the market that can make that easier. There is one in particular that you literally you put your smalls into a basin, you go away, you have a cup of tea, you come back, you pick them up, you squeeze them, you hang them up. Great. You don't go down to the river and run along that thing. Got it. You don't have to spend a great deal of time. You just literally let them soak, and then off you go. So that makes life much easier. Okay. Because it is, and do you know what? It's time consuming, although that way isn't. But also in your head, it's like, oh God, I really don't have time for this. I've got too many other things that I want to do. So I get that. I can see how that can be the case. To go back to what we were saying about the hook and eye, I'm going to show you on the black one. So if you start the bra off, ideally in the loosest hook, then as you feel this is getting quite loose, and you'll feel it by putting your 2 fingers behind onto the hook and eye and just pulling back. If you
Yeah.
can fit a small child in there, the band is too big, or the
A
elastic
small
is
child.
yeah, well, anything.
No,
Then
I know. There's no way I'd ever spend a small child. Have you got something else to
that might just be an Irish expression.
No, but
If
what?
you
No,
can,
see, what's it? Because I've got play there. I'm doing it now, and I've got play, but I don't know how much play is. Because yeah,
you should be able to get 2 fingers this way in behind your bra, so that's way it's not too tight. Anything more than that is going to then be starting to be too much. So I don't know, maybe a remote control or something
I
like that.
feel really. I'm not an advocate for this yet. I'm going to become an advocate though. This has been good. It's been a good help. But let me just ask
So
you now.
yeah, no, let me finish that bit
Yeah.
first. So if you can pull that out, if you can pull the bra out, then your band is becoming too big for you. You're not going to get the support. So
Okay.
you put it into the middle one. And then when that gets a little bit too loose, you put it into the tightest one. And then where do you go when the tightest one is too loose?
The bin.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
And similarly, if you change size and it is poking into you, it is not your optimal fit,
Right.
that's when it also goes in the bin.
Okay, got it. So listen, tell me about your service. Is it all in-person appointment, or do you do online appointments? So are there more people doing this globally, internationally, and how might people find local therapists offering the same service?
Okay, so when this started, it was it was kind of little old me, and very quickly I realized that there were more people in the world that I could reach, and I was just doing it face to face because that was pre-COVID. And one of the things that COVID has created is a much bigger virtual world, and I am now doing virtual fittings. So I have fitted people in various parts of the world, including Malta. I've had a lady from in Australia who's been in touch with me, but I haven't fitted her yet. But that's on the card. So the nice thing is virtual fitting can be done, and all of that postural information and all of that education side of it can be done. And then we work around the bra fitting side. I get the bras to them, and they try them on a second session. It is more ideal if you can do the bra side of it face to face, absolutely. And so I was very keen to try and get more people offering this service. And so I set up the training courses that you mentioned earlier, which are Gals Against Gravity. So those training courses are for all healthcare professionals to give them that awareness of breast weight and its impact. And then from that, if somebody is interested in going forward, and if I invite them to go forward, they can then become a posture fitting physio partner, where basically they would offer the service within their clinic. And currently there are 4 physios in Ireland who are offering that in addition to myself. And I have one lady in the Midlands, one physio in the Midlands, and hot off the press, 2 physios in London who are just going to be coming on board in different areas of London, which is great, because then they've got that kind of a little bit more geographical area covered. And absolutely, I would love to have people internationally. The first physio that ever actually contacted me about this, the first 2 physios that contacted me, one was Australian and one was American. And then I've had somebody from South Africa get in touch. So, I would love to have posture fitting physio partners in all of those places in the world, so that so that education is being offered to more women.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that people can find out who those people are through your website and through contacting you. So this might be a good time to tell me and everyone else how we can reach you.
Okay, so the website is www.posturefittingphysio.com.
Fantastic.
That has the list of all the current physios, and also contact details for if anybody wanted a virtual fitting done. The details are on there for contacting for that as well. So yeah, and great. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all those fun things. So generally posture fitting.
a good place to start is the website, which
Yeah.
which will be down here on the screen now. Thank you so much for your time, Siobhan, and thank you so much for your important work, which seems to be filling a gap out there in women's health. I just wish you all the best of luck to continue your endeavour, and yeah, I'm going to be screaming or telling people. I already have started to point this out to people, and hopefully when people do view this interview, that the alarm bells are going to go ringing and people are going to start to care more in a preventative fashion for their health. So thanks so much for your time.
You're more than welcome, and you'll have to stay on because I'm going to have to check your bra now, aren't I?
Head on over to my website, www.exerciseforosteoporosis.com. Subscribe to my mailing list and be the first to hear about news and offers and how to work with me online and in person. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe for more, and why not share it with someone you know.